Hey guys, my name is Dylan with the anime summary. The story begins with our main protagonist Rei being an ordinary student with black hair and blue eyes. A girl bumps into him and catches her before she falls at the last second. Everyone around them, including the girl and her friends, realize that he's the first ordinary student attending the Arnold Academy of Sorcery. Albert and his friends, being nobles, show up in front of Rei, confronting him for being an ordinary student despising Rei. Amelia from one of the top 3 noble families intervenes in the conversation with Albert and his group leaving the scene. They both greet each other formally, with Amelia telling him that if he runs into any problems at school that he can talk to her whenever. Abby, the principal of the Arnold Academy of Sorcery, gives a well-thought speech to the students that the school is the best among the world, for that being noticed for their talents but will still be required to work their hardest to become first-rate sorcerers, ending her speech and walking away. Amelia steps up to the podium, stating to everyone that being accepted into the academy is only the start for their journeys as sorcerers. In class, Rei introduces himself to everyone, expressing that he's the first ordinary kid attending the Arnold Academy of Sorcerers. From when the school was founded, hoping for everyone to work together with him, ending his introduction. Miss Gray, the teacher, tells him to take a seat, then Rei heads to his seat. Rei looks out the distance, recalling his time on the battlefield, then gets thrown a white powder ball from Miss Gray. Rei apologizes for dozing off in class, and they continue with the lesson. Amelia stands up to explain to the class the 5 sorcery ranks, being bronze, silver, gold, platinum, and grand, with the ranks from weakest to strongest. Miss Gray goes on to say that there can only be 7 grand sorcerers at one time. One being Abby, the school principal, Carol, a spellbinding sorcerer, and lastly, the Iceblade sorcerer who vanished after ending the Far East War. Lastly, informing the class that no information is known among the rest of the Grand Sorcerers. Albert stands up, still furious at the fact that Rei is an ordinary student attending the academy. Miss Gray yells at him, stating that whether Rei is a noble or an ordinary doesn't matter. Miss Gray explains to the class that at the very center of sorcery is the code of theory, using certain words in order to create a basic group of flowers to show to the group the fundamentals of sorcery, then informing them that matter is separated into 4 categories, being solids, liquids, gases, and lastly plasma. Amelia tries using her sorcery, creating a singular rose, getting compliments from the class. Then on the other hand, Rei tries to do the same but fails to create one, with the class gossiping about his skills as a sorcerer. After class, Rei heads into the library to talk to Elisa, the blue-haired elf girl, after Rei saw her creations in class. They both take a seat, bonding over Dr. Ainsworth and her being a top-ranked researcher of sorcery. Rei compliments Elisa on her looks. Then Elisa compliments him for being a really mature guy, with Rei recalling one of his friends saying the same exact thing. After their chat later in the day, he stops by a room, meeting Evi, shaking each other's hands. Then they are fascinated by each other's strengths. The next day in the morning, Rei is going out for a run, then he apologizes to a 3rd year, Rebecca, for not assuming anyone was going to be out early like him. Rei and Evi later have a chat on their way to class about the Rose, Bradley, and Olgren families being the most powerful royal families. Rei tells Evi that he has to talk to the principal before class, and they part ways in the meantime. While looking through the hallway, he bumps into a girl running without looking. She introduces herself as Clarice, being a part of the Cleveland family, to Rei. Then Rei says regardless of not knowing that her family is realistically beautiful, making Clarice happy. Abby and Rei have a discussion on being retired, about their life in the military, bringing back memories that they've had together. In the school courtyard, Rei and Albert are about to engage in a mock battle with wooden swords. Albert gets frustrated just by looking at Rei, then Albert swings his sword but gets blocked by Rei. He charges at Rei once more, with Rei breaking his wooden sword completely. From a distance, Abby is watching, glad that Rei is enjoying his new life, keeping the status of him being the Iceblade sorcerer a secret from society. The next day, Rei barges into his first club, the Environmental Research Club. The leader of the club orders Rei to take off his clothes before speaking. Then he proceeds to shock all of the members with his muscles. Rei then shows his gold hunter license that he's acquired, becoming an official member of the Environmental Research Club. Rei heads into his second club, being the Flower Research Club. Rebecca, being the leader of the club, is confused about the fact that he wants to join. Rei states that he finds it fascinating that a flower can bloom in any environment. Dina, a third-year student, objects Ray from partaking in the club, thinking that he just wants to be in a relationship with Rebecca. She gives Ray an evaluation before joining the club. Dina tells him on top of one of the academy buildings to recreate a garden for planting in 1 week and leaves him to it. During the days, Ray's working hard to fix up the roof, clearing the weeds, plowing the dirt, and creating places to be able to plant flowers. Rebecca comes up to greet Ray with fruit sandwiches, expressing herself to Ray. Rebecca notices Ray's muscles and demands to know if she can touch them. She blushes over the fact that his biceps are in great shape. On the 4th day, Dina and all of the members are shocked at how great the roof is, allowing him to partake in the Flower Research Club. Later that day, Ray is walking alone, recalling the favor from Abby that a spy from the Empire has entered the academy, having to report back to her if he finds anything. The next day at the academy, Miss Gray tells everyone in class that the topic they will be learning for the day will be about the basics of sorcery. Ray gets called on and explains to the class the 4 types being low grade, mid grade, high grade, and holy grade. The whole class is shocked by Ray's knowledge about sorcery. Miss Gray announces to the class that there will be a practical test coming up and to form groups of 4 before then. Ray and Evi start the group with Ray asking Elisa to join, eventually agreeing to join the group. Then Amelia comes up to Ray to form the last player of the team. At the exam site, Miss Gray goes into the details of the practical, with the main objective being to reach the center of the forest, collecting stamps along the way, while the more stamps they obtain will give them a higher overall score. Miss Gray tells them to be cautious, indicating that combat might be necessary. Everyone gets situated and proceeds to start on the respective starting line. Miss Gray announces on the intercom that the practical will be starting, sending a smoke bomb into the sky. Inside the forest, Ray's group encounters a giant bug standing in their path. Ray slices the monster in half, slaying it in 1 blow. The group finds a stamp near a tree and gets excited about finding their first stamp. Later that night in the forest, the group reflects on how well they performed on the first day, realizing that they have a chance to win the whole thing. Ray tells the group that he has slayed a bunch of monsters in the backwoods forest before. Amelia suspects that Ray's whole persona is fake to blend into the academy. Ray has visions of his former military comrades, rethinking about his life now at the academy than from the battlefield. Everyone goes to sleep besides Ray, thinking about whether or not he should tell his group about his true identity. The next day, Ray charges into the forest, hearing screams in the distance. Upon arrival, he notices Albert's group in a tight pickle, offering to assist them in the fight. Ray slays the monster instantly with his dagger, with the group arriving after. Evi and Elisa help Albert's group, with Amelia questioning Ray on who he really is. A guy covered in a robe resurrects the monster, making it way stronger than before. The monster howls in anger towards Ray and Albert's group, ready to fight one-on-one, getting in a stance. Clarice hears the monster's howl, seeing Ray challenging the monster to a duel. The monster pounces constantly at Ray, with his whole group combining their strength to send a boulder, distracting the monster. While distracted, Ray uses the opportunity to slice the monster in half, fully destroying it for good. Ray's group celebrates on the win, with Ray getting flashbacks with his friends now, thinking about his old friends in the military. Clarice witnesses everything from a secluded spot, being shocked at how strong Ray is as a fighter. After the practical test, Ray's group is declared the winner of the test. Everyone in the crowd is disgusted at having Ray win since he's an ordinary student. Albert gets even more furious at the fact that Ray is beating him in every event held at school. Later in the day, Ray arrives at a retirement home to greet Lydia, his old former master from when he was in the military. They both take a seat and have a chat about Ray's forbidden ability to be strictly not allowed unless of a dire situation. Lydia tells him that there is a group of researchers being eugenics who are, instead of being pure, will take previous sorcerers' brains and use it to benefit. After the conversation, Ray and Lydia take a stroll through the forest to remember the old times that they used to have. Ray tells her that he's made great friends since attending the academy. Lydia realizes Ray's smile has been more natural since being there. Lydia gives him a book for Elisa since she's a big fan of hers, then Ray thanks her for the kindness. In the afternoon, Miss Gray summons Ray to her chambers at school. She is shocked to hear about Ray's enjoyment at being at the academy, apologizing about the mistreatment he's been going through. Knowing that she can't do a thing to help overall, being self-centered for focusing on researching instead. Ray still compliments her as an excellent researcher, recalling that she is the teacher and that he is the student. Ray is joyful about meeting great people that he would call friends at the academy. Meanwhile, in the forest at night, Albert is enraged, setting a fire in the forest with the mysterious man in the cloak joyful of Albert's actions. In the Flower Research Club, Ray apologizes to Rebecca for accidentally walking in on her while she was changing. Rebecca accepts his apology, blushing at the fact that the encounter that she had with Ray right before was really awkward. Rebecca then proceeds to show Ray a book containing records of the Flower Club. They both head outside to the garden, with Rebecca explaining to Ray a plan in front of them being able to use sorcery. She is glad to explain the basics to Ray about the research club for not being judged by him for being a part of one of the 3 great houses, rather than her fellow club members keeping a distance to not get themselves involved with Rebecca's life. Ray is glad to hear that she is open to him, insisting on receiving more lessons from Rebecca. Before Ray leaves, he asks Rebecca if he can borrow the book to study while Rebecca agrees to do so. Back in the school courtyard, the class is having another sword fighting match where Amelia and another student are going at it. Amelia takes her out with her sword, winning the duel. After the fight, Amelia requests a duel with Ray, to which Ray agrees to fight her. The duel starts with Amelia lashing her sword quickly at Ray. She keeps pressuring him with her wooden sword, putting him on the ropes. Amelia gets caught off guard, but before Ray connects, he falls to the ground, feeling pain from his leg. Amelia is declared the victor of the duel and questions Ray on who he really is. While Ray and the group are eating at the diner, Albert appears challenging Ray to a duel. Ray accepts the duel request, squaring up outside face to face. Amelia, Evi, and Elisa notice the bearer being highly suspicious for the fight. Albert hands him a real sword, stating that the use of sorcery will be allowed and whoever admits defeat will lose the match. The man in cloak from earlier is watching the fight from a distance, pleased about the situation. Albert launches a fireball spell in anger but gets easily negated by Ray. Albert gets more furious, using a fire dragon spell with all of his might towards Ray. Ray then easily slices the fire dragon in half, destroying the attack. Albert falls to the ground, screaming at the fact that even his strongest spell had no effect on Ray. Magic all of a sudden activates, sending everyone besides Ray to the ground. Out of the forest, the man in cloak appears, revealing to be Professor Gray, being a part of the eugenics. Miss Gray uses a more advanced version of the fire dragon, aiming for Amelia, Evi, and Elisa. Ray recalls his conversation with Lydia, using his true Iceblade sorcery powers to save his friends. Miss Gray can't believe that Ray is the Grand Iceblade Sorcerer using more magic. Realizing that none of her magic is working, starts running away, falling to the ground. Knowing that Ray is trying to take her as a prisoner, she uses a special serum to transform herself into a demon. If you guys like what you saw, be sure to subscribe, like the video, and we'll see you in the next video. Hope you guys have a great day. Peace.